Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. How are we doing? Today's video is going to be a settings guide regarding the Xbox Series 2 Elite controller. I'm going to be going into the settings within Modern Warfare 2 itself, as well as going into the Xbox accessories app and showing you guys how I've got that set up separately from any game. So yeah, I was contemplating doing a settings video for my whole settings, like graphics, audio, and that sort of thing. I did one a while ago. It is a little bit outdated, but guys, let me know if you guys want an updated one for ranked, because I have made some adjustments. So yeah, if that's something you want to see, let me know down in the comments and I'll upload that as soon as I can. But this one is just going to be about the controller settings, so feel free to stay to the end of the video because I do go into a little bit of detail here. So obviously, my aim and input device is controller. That goes without saying. Right here, I've got my settings set to tactical, which basically means that it switches the crouch and melee button. So it's B to melee instead of the right stick, and it's right stick to crouch or lay down or slide or dive, which just, for me, it's nice that I don't have to take my finger off the thumbstick to dive or drop shot or anything like that. So I would recommend doing that. It takes a little getting used to, but it's worth it in the end. I've got bumper ping off, flip R right trigger, left trigger, and RB and RT off. If you've got an Elite Series 2, you can know that the bumpers are a little bit, I don't know, unreliable at times. So I don't like doing that. I have it as it is. I've then got stick layout preset as default, controller orientation up. I have controller vibration on. This is actually a little bit of a controversial thing. A lot of people have it off because it presumably makes your aim better. But for me, vibration works because it allows me to react to the feeling of being shot. And I can actually feel the gun shooting. I've been playing with vibration on for absolutely years. If you're used to it, use it. If you're not used to it, don't use it. It's as simple as that. I've then got sensitivity of 7.7. I used to play on 9.9 in Vanguard, so if you haven't changed your sensitivity from Vanguard, I'd recommend turning it down a little bit because it does help me lock in my aim. We then have sensitivity multiplier, where I've got it all set as 1. That's all default. I haven't changed that. The ADS sensitivity multiplier here is locked because it's actually in the advanced, so I'll go through that once we get to that section. Vertical aim axis is completely locked, completely default, sorry. And this is where we get into the gameplay settings for the controller. So all of this is pretty much standard. I've got automatic sprint off. Now the reason for that is, yeah, you might be saying, oh, I want to save my controller's lifespan, but at the end of the day, automatic attack sprint will kill you. It's going to be a lot. I don't know. There's so many times when I had that on where I'd be just sprinting too much and you'd end up dying. So I have that off. However, something that does help with that is a setting I have in the advanced section. So make sure, if you're not sure what that is, stay to a little bit more and I'll be covering that shortly. So equipment behavior hold, weapon mount activation, ADS plus melee, which is just default. This is one thing I have changed, and it's the interact relay button to prioritize interact. This is good for Warzone. And what it basically means is that, say for example, you need to reload and there's a gun on the floor, tapping X, which is the square if you're on the PlayStation, will swap your gun to the whatever it is rather than reload, and you'd have to actually hold to reload. However, if you had it on prioritized reload, tapping X would reload rather than pick up the gun. So for me, picking up the gun is a lot quicker than reloading, so I always use that tap to pick up a gun is far better for me. But again, a little bit personal preference, do whatever suits you best. And then armor plate behavior, apply 1. That's just standard. Then I have target aim assist on with the Black Ops aim assist type. It used to be marginally stronger than default. No one really knows anymore. There's been nerfs here and there, but Black Ops works for me, and my shots are okay. So we have it as that. My aim response curve type is dynamic. This is a must-have. You'd see every single settings video in the world probably has it on dynamic. And then we've got ADS sense multiplier focus as 1. Transaction time is set to instant. So basically, as soon as I ADS, I want my sensitivity to change from what it was from when I was not ADS'd. I then have custom sensitivity per zoom on. Now, I have everything as 1, apart from high zoom as 1.1 because I like to be quite flicky with my snipers. I've probably got a sniper gameplay coming up shortly, so you guys are going to be able to see I can snipe a little, but you don't see a lot on the channel because I do ranked mainly. But in S&D in this game, sniping's a thing, and I do it quite a lot. So yeah, I have that at 1.1. But the crucial thing here is the low zoom sensitivity. So I know 7.7 regular sensitivity can be a little bit high, and I offset that by changing the ADS sense multiplier 2.75. This allows me to maintain my accurate shots whilst ADS and whilst having like a little bit more mobility when I'm not ADS. So that's how to change that. But yeah, you can do it on the other setting on the controller tab at the top left. However, you can't then change it for snipers. So this is how to change it per zoom, essentially. So would recommend doing so. I then have input dead zones as follows. So that you basically want these two as low as you can possibly get them without getting stick drift. So that basically means you're not touching your controller, but your character's moving or it's turning or anything like that. You basically don't want that to happen because that affects your aim. But you also want this as low as possible to have, a better response time into your controller. I then have these on max, and then my left trigger and right trigger dead zones quite low as well, so that the game reacts to me pulling my triggers a lot quicker. And then I have all this gyro aiming off, so that's all default. I'm just going to whiz through that. This moves us on to movement behavior. So this is default. Auto move forward is off as default. Tactical sprint behavior is single tap run. So what this means is that instead of having to double click the left stick to get into an auto attack sprint, basically means that I'm either not sprinting at all or tack sprinting. There's no in between, and for me that works best. It's the best sort of in between of not dying through having automatic tack sprint on and not breaking the controller. So that's a nice setting to have. I would try this setup if you haven't already, because it might be game changing for you. I then have grounded mantle completely off because that can screw you over sometimes. And you also want to change the automatic airwall mantle behavior to partial, again, because you don't want to be mantling when you don't want to be. You can be losing gunfights as a result. And then again, automatic ground mantle off for that exact reason again. So this is one thing I would recommend for those of you who haven't changed this already. The invert, slide, and dive behavior must be on inverted. Now, I say must, it doesn't have to be. However, what this means is that when you're pressing crouch or slide or whatever, you only have to tap it to dive. However, you need to hold it to slide. So sliding isn't really viable in this game as a movement mechanic. So you want the good movement mechanic, i.e. diving in this game, to be the quicker response. So I have that on inverted to make sure that that does happen. If you look at the top right here, it says inverted, hold to slide, tap to dive, which means you can dive really quickly and reactionally compared to sliding, which I don't think is too viable in this game. We then have plunging underwater as movement, and then these are all pretty much default. Everything else here is default still. Yeah, all of this is default. So yeah, let's crack on into the Xbox controller app settings. So here we have the actual app settings within the Xbox controller app itself. So you can do a lot of configuration here. So this is the current setup I have. So you're going to be able to see that my paddles at the bottom there, I've got them. I only actually have two. So I have A on my right one and B on the left one, so that I'm jumping with the bottom right paddle, and then meleeing with the bottom left paddle. It's good for jump shotting. It's good for quick melees without having to take your thumbstick off, because I do play tactical. So yeah, that's the setup I have with that. I never really use the two top paddles at all. I then have let's have a look here. I have this the left stick as standard. I haven't changed that at all, as well as the right stick. That's completely standard as well. Now the triggers is where it gets a little bit interesting. So I've made the trigger dead zone a little bit high, so you have to pull your trigger all the way around for it to get clicked in. Although, because we've got it set to 0.05 in the Modern Warfare 2 settings themselves, this really isn't that important. However, the right trigger setting, which is here, you're going to see that as soon as I even slightly press it, it's automatically fully activated. So that basically means that time between me pulling the trigger and the game pulling the trigger, shooting the gun, is going to be really thin. And you really want this to be able to, if you feel like, I don't know, how have I lost that? I pulled my trigger first, blah, 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 blah. Change this to a lower dead zone, and that means that you're basically going to be able to react quicker. Other than that, everything's standard. I have my rumbles fully on. I have my color as white as standard. But yeah, generally speaking, that's all I've changed. Everything else, you sort of want to keep pretty standard. But yeah, anyway, here's my button layout. As I say, I don't use the top two paddles, but everything else is as it is. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know if you want any more further clarification down in the comments. I will answer your questions, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hope you found this useful. Ciao for now.